I mean, if I can just get some business just out of the way firsthand. Sure. I mean, yeah, thank you for letting me come on and cover the segments, but also thank you for giving me a platform to promote Kim Jong-un's glorious sunscreen. This has an SPF of 1 million.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Mm-hmm, it also won the Trump Beauty Awards of 2022.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so in spite of... Huh?
No, go ahead.
Right, so just in spite of what Yeonmi Park says, the North Koreans do actually produce their own sunscreen. And according to Donald Trump, it is the best sunscreen. It's a perfect sunscreen. And it has a dual purpose.
Sunscreen.
The glorious sunscreen. Not only can it protect your skin while you're outside underneath the sun, pushing the train in North Korea to make it go. Right. It also can act as a train track lubricator to help make that process
right, like a WD-40 type. So
it's this is the true worker's sunscreen.
Yeah. All right. Exactly. So I heard Yeonmi Park say that they don't have sunscreen. They have to use bug fat, like from crickets. They squeeze it on themselves before they go to the beach. They take handfuls of crickets and rub it on their faces. No?
No. It's just an industrial capacity sunscreen for all your industrial and working class needs.
Right. Beautiful. That's very clever. They do a lot with a little there.
They do a whole lot.
Well, we're glad that you can come on and give that plug, because AOC this week appeared with an Instagram influencer and self-described beauty industry fairy godmother. That's actually what she calls herself. That's on her Instagram. Charlotte Palomino, to bemoan the overregulation of American sunscreen. So let's hear from AOC and Charlotte Palomino.
Let's see what important work she
talk about sunscreen, specifically U.S. sunscreen, and how to fix it. Hello, everyone. This is Rep AOC, and I'm here with Charlotte Palomino.
I'm a brand owner, but also a licensed esthetician. U.S. sunscreen regulations are not necessarily making us more safe or better products.
U.S. sunscreens are far behind the rest of the world. I was in South Korea earlier this year, and it is so clear how far advanced the rest of the world is on sunscreen, and we deserve better here in the U.S.
How does the FDA regulate?
FDA is different than the rest of the world in that we regulate sunscreen as a drug instead of a cosmetic. It's regulated as a drug, has far more stringent standards, far more testing, far more scientific and clinical trials that are required, which is good. We want to make sure that things are safe. However, sometimes that can add a lot of bureaucratic and costs that prevent us from getting any sunscreen.
You sound kind of like a Republican.
Well, I mean that, but also, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if we should play the rest of this video, because you know what this sounds like to me? This sounds like medical misinformation, right? I mean, the FDA, I will have AOC know, I don't know when she became a Trump supporter and sort of, libertarian. But the FDA is one of our most cherished and most esteemed institutions.
Yeah, they're never
They are
wrong.
a pillar of our democracy. Sounds like maybe she should be deplatformed. Maybe she should be thrown off of Instagram, thrown off of
Maybe
Facebook.
she should.
The FDA is clearly beyond reproach, and for her to be sowing doubt like that could get people hurt. And I don't know who we can appeal to for any action on this, but I do remember a certain congresswoman, I think it might have been AOC herself, who said deplatforming works in response to Tucker Carlson being fired, right? So if deplatforming works and you're up here showing all these, articles and sources and citations, I mean, I don't know what they are, but what you're telling me is that I should take your word over the word of the Food and Drug Administration, and I think that's terrible. I think that's dangerous. I think she should be deplatformed.
Well, it's like when the libs were freaking out about alien apocalypse, right? It's not the alien apocalypse show. It's once people start asking questions, where does it end? Right. Well, it's not about sunscreen. Go ahead, Tusker.
I think AOC questioning the FDA, I think that is essentially what Keaton referred to it as. I think it's an assault on our democracy.
Right.
I don't see how that we can maintain democratic institutions that allow unfettered capitalist power to have control and say so over our elections if we do not uphold those institutions. And so this is a fundamental assault on those institutions.
Yeah,
it is. They should be protected.
It's also a fundamental assault on Baz Luhrmann and his very famous video,
Yes.
Sunscreen.
Yes. Everyone's free to wear sunscreen, right? That was the official title of that. Indeed.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So I guess for the sake of putting on a show, we'll let this finish. But we just had to pause it there, and I just want everybody to understand that we are providing, what do they call it in YouTube world or Facebook world? We are providing a sort of, what are they? A countervailing view, right? We're issuing a countervailing view where we are providing context to make sure that none of our viewers come away misinformed.
We're fact checking. We're
fact checking, right. We're fact checking and yeah, right, making sure that we're putting this in the proper context so that none of our viewers come away misinformed about the FDA and what sunscreen they should put on their body. All right. Now that we have that out of the way, we can let this go on.
And just for context, it has been since 1999. It was the last time that we had a new sunscreen filter in the United States.
When we compare the US standards to European standards in 2017, a Sloan Kettering study found that only half of US sunscreens met European protection standards. Here's the thing though, there is something that we can do about this. Congress has not been very aware of this issue, which is why there hasn't been a lot of momentum behind this issue. Truly, it's not too corny. Please contact your member of Congress, especially if your member of Congress sits on the Energy and Commerce Committee. They have jurisdiction over the FDA. However, any member of Congress can develop attention and draw attention to this issue.
Okay, why? Okay, once again, I just have to say, I strongly advise against this. So you want your followers to call Congress. You just posted the phone number of the U.S. Capitol switchboard. You want us to call Congress and bully them into what? Reforming the FDA so that we can import shady sunscreen from South Korea, then rub it on our bodies without knowing what the fuck it is? Doesn't the FDA exist to protect us from such, substances? I don't understand what she's doing.
And when we know...
This sounds like something maybe a Trump supporter would do.
Well, and there's better sunscreen in North Korea. I mean, slightly radioactive, but hey, I mean, that's what you need to make a good sunscreen.
Well, that's why we had Tusker here.
Yeah, that's the reason why I'm here. But I would also have to say, I think sharing the U.S. Capitol switchboard phone number, I think, is also an assault on our democracy.
Right, exactly. Who are we to call
you'd have too many people calling in and giving their opinions, and that would also erode faith in the institutions themselves.
I mean, isn't this the kind of thing you didn't want to do for Medicare for All because of the relational harm?
Right. This sounds like it might cause some reputational and relational harm. I mean, if your colleagues start getting bombarded with phone calls from people demanding imported sunscreen from South Korea because the sunscreen we have here for some reason is not good enough, for a reason I'm not quite clear on, to be honest with you.
I'm not clear on that either. Like, I've never put on sunscreen and come away from the beach with a sunburn.
Yeah, no, sunscreen seems to work really well. Whenever you apply it properly, it seems to work fantastically well. But for some reason, we're supposed to believe that the sunscreen here is not up to par. And so we're supposed to call Congress and harass members of Congress about the FDA and their approach to regulating sunscreen. Interesting.
Yeah, if I could just say so, in this context, she is using her platform to essentially engage in a demand and try to mobilize people to engage in a political action, contacting, their Congress member, whatever. She did not do her fundamental job here, which is educating the populace on why that this should happen. There was some language in there about, well, our FDA gets in the way of business. It hasn't changed since 1999. It's behind the other things, but she didn't actually do a whole lot of education in this, as far as why it is important to working class people to care about this issue.
Right.
So I'm not understanding what the purpose of it is.
Yeah, anyway. That's the thing. I don't even understand the pitch. I don't understand it's like she hasn't told us what's really wrong with our sunscreen, because she said it's important to regulate sunscreen to keep it safe, which I agree.
Yeah.
But then she's saying that because they regulate it as a drug and not as a cosmetic, maybe they overregulate or misregulate. Again, this is all very Trumpy and misinformation that she's pushing. Yeah. I don't even want to talk about it because I don't want to give people the wrong idea that safe sunscreen is not safe or that unsafe sunscreen is safe. Plus, it's August 13th. We're not going to need sunscreen for that much longer anyway. She should have made this video in May. This is a Memorial Day video, not a Labor Day video. Yeah, it's a little late. By the time people get this sunscreen approved, it's going to be fucking November already. We're going to have to wait 7 months to use it, and then, whatever, it'll be moot.
Yeah.
This is just, it's sad. It's sad. It's really pathetic that when you consider that she started by protesting in Pelosi's office before I believe that was before she was even seated in Congress, right? She wasn't even a sitting member of Congress. That was her introduction. And now you ask, and I think this is what's perplexing everybody, like, why did she even do this? Okay, one, if you ever watched her protest the Roe decision manicure video, she's a little bit of an airhead. So there's that element of it. She's a little dumb like that. But also, look, I mean, her progressive base has left her, as she has left them, whatever you want to call it, left. She doesn't have the left anymore. So I think she is just trying to follow through on the implications of how she's run her career. Can she be a congresswoman as Instagram influencer? And the kinds of bubbleheads who are going to vote for an Instagram influencer, now that you've given up on people with actual politics, this probably appeals to them, right? Did you see AOC said to call Congress because did you know they regulate a sunscreen as a drug and other countries do it as a cosmetic? Oh my God. And who was that woman she got? They were both so cute in that video. What's that number again? Like, that's who she's talking to. That's all I can figure. Like, she's just trying to shift to this Instagram base. Why else would you do this? I mean, no serious political actor is not going to make fun of you for this. So yeah. Who's it for?
I mean, I think if anything, it's probably to secure her exit from politics once with the articles that came out with the Justice Democrats laying people off, with Sunrise Movement laying people off, with the obvious hurt that the so-called squad is going to be undergoing with their fundraising issues. I think this is just her way to secure a career afterwards, which is going to essentially
she's
be
the cosmetic. She's auditioning to be a brand influencer, you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
She is a very pretty girl. She's a very pretty woman.
But look, I think
cosmetic
that,
seems like for her.
I think she's very safe in her seat for as long as she wants it. I mean, she has the name ID. She can cruise on that. In her district, she's very, very, very popular. She'll always be able to fundraise off of her name. This could be it. I mean, a lot of times, like, look, I didn't even give her that much shit in the beginning when it was pretty clear that she was a bit of a narcissist and was sort of using her position as this, insurgent progressive, I would even say trend maker, right? She was sort of parlaying that into a sort of unofficial influencer career, right? And I didn't even hold that against her at the start because I was like, hey, look, if the most famous member of Congress is a Democratic Socialist, that's better than the most famous member of Congress being a Hakeem Jeffries type, So like, right, whatever. Right. As long as you're doing what we sent you there to do, then knock yourself out with this shit, right? The problem is when you do this in place of what you were sent there to do. That's when it becomes a problem, and that's what she's doing here. Let me just play the end of this real quick.
I mean, this just plays like this is a friend of hers. And they just got together and decided to do a cutesy video about sunscreen.
Right, exactly.
Them to break through some of the regulatory barriers at the FDA and fund public research so that we can all enjoy the filters that develop out of the scientific process.
Just need to make some noise about it.
Totally. I mean, I love Korean sunscreens, but I want to buy this in the US. Why do we need to import them from all over the place?
Why do you love Korean sunscreens more than American sunscreens? I don't get what's better about the Korean sunscreens than the American sunscreens.
What is the difference?
Korean
I'm not the darkest skinned person in the world, and it's never been a problem for me, American sunscreens.
Yeah, I don't understand. Because it's not like she's saying the American sunscreens aren't safe, because she's saying the FDA regulates them as a drug, which is stricter than if they regulated them as a cosmetic. So it's not like It's not like if you're saying these sunscreens are poisoning us and they have better ones in Korea, then okay, fine. But you seem to be saying the regulation is too stringent here. So I don't understand.
Well, I will just as a caveat, I will have to say I am not aware of anything regarding big sunscreen. Okay, I don't know the problems behind it. I don't know their waste techniques. Perhaps the product that they're making is very damaging to the environment. Like there are lots of issues that maybe can legitimize her caring about sunscreen. That's not the point. I think.
Well, that's not what she did a video about.
Right. That's
like
not.
It's not. I mean, as Keaton points as Keaton points out, and as you pointed out, she hasn't identified a problem. Like, what is the problem? Okay, so they've got what, stronger sunscreens? So what? You come out like fucking Casper after you go out in the sun? Like, what is it? Does it bleach you?
Sounds like the problem is your friend there isn't selling enough sunscreen.
That's how this plays. It plays like she is literally doing a commercial for this woman.
Right, because I'm not convinced what the problem is. She hasn't articulated what the problem is and why it needs solving urgently.
We're importing Korean sunscreens, and by God, the Americans should have a monopoly on that market. Everyone should be using American sunscreen.
Please clap.